Have you ever sat quietly and noticed how, as we age, our bodies and behaviors begin to shift in subtle ways? Maybe it's a loved one who suddenly starts sleeping more than usual. Or maybe it's you, feeling a little more withdrawn than you used to be, even though nothing specific seems wrong. Life in our 60s and beyond is filled with changes, some of them expected, others that take us by surprise. And while most changes are just a natural part of getting older, there are a few signs we need to take a closer look at, because they might be telling us something deeper. Now, I want to say this right from the start. This conversation isn't meant to be scary. It's not about doom and gloom. It's about awareness. It's about recognizing the quiet signals that our body and spirit send us. And more importantly, it's about love. Because when we notice these things in ourselves or the people we care about, we have the power to act, to comfort, to prepare, to make sure that the final chapters of life are filled with dignity, grace, and connection. Today, we're going to talk about 5 signs that often appear in a year before an elderly person passes away. These signs don't mean death is certain, and they're not a crystal ball, but they are patterns that doctors, caregivers, and families see time and time again. When we understand them, we're better equipped to support ourselves and those we love in a meaningful, compassionate way. Let's start with something many people overlook: a noticeable withdrawal from social life. This isn't just about skipping a few get-togethers or being tired after a busy week. We're talking about someone who once enjoyed chatting on the phone, joining family dinners, or watching TV with their spouse, who now prefers to sit alone. They stop answering calls. They seem distant, quieter. It's not that they're upset. They just begin to pull inward. It can be easy to chalk this up to mood or fatigue, but often it's a body and mind getting a natural, gentle detachment from the world around them. There's even a term for this in hospice care: life review. People begin to reflect, to look back. Their priorities shift from outward engagement to inward contemplation. I remember a neighbor of mine, Mr. Harris. He was the kind of man who never missed Sunday brunch at the local diner. He was sharp, witty, and had a story for every occasion. But one year, right around his 83rd birthday, something changed. He still waved when I saw him, but he stopped joining our neighborhood lunches. He'd say he was fine, just a bit tired. Then he stopped answering his door altogether. His family thought maybe he was just slowing down. 3 months later, he passed peacefully in his sleep. Looking back, it wasn't sadness or depression. It was his quiet way of stepping back. And I wish we had recognized it for what it was: a cue to spend more time with him, not less. The second sign many people show is a sudden decline in appetite or interest in food. Now, it's true that our appetites naturally shrink as we get older. Taste buds change. Digestion slows. But what we're talking about here is more than that. It's when someone who used to love their meals suddenly pushes their plate away. They lose weight without trying. They even forget to eat sometimes. What's happening inside the body during this time is quite fascinating. As organs start to slow down, the body needs less energy. Food doesn't digest the same way. The desire to eat simply fades, not because of illness, but because the body is preparing in its own gentle way. It's a bit like nature tidying things up little by little. But to someone watching from the outside, it can feel alarming. We might worry, push food, urge snacks and favorites. And while it's always important to keep offering nourishment, we also need to understand the deeper context. The goal becomes comfort, not calories. There was a woman I once met during a caregiving workshop. Her mother, who was 89, suddenly stopped asking for her usual evening tea and cookies. That was their ritual every night, without fail, for nearly 2 decades. And then one day, her mom just said, "I don't really feel like it tonight." That night turned into a week, and then a month. Her daughter kept preparing the tea anyway, placing it beside her with love. Not to push it, but as a symbol of care. Her mom passed away a few months later, never touching the tea again, but never once unloved. It's these tender moments that show us how powerful small signs can be. And while we're on the subject of daily rhythms, let's talk about energy, or more precisely, the slow draining of it. Not the kind that comes after a long walk or a day out, but a deep, persistent fatigue that seems to touch every part of life. Even simple things like getting out of bed, taking a shower, or walking to the kitchen feel like a marathon. It's different from illness or being under the weather. It's like the spark inside someone is growing dimmer. Not in a painful way, but in a peaceful, almost sacred one. They begin to rest more. They sleep during the day. They speak less. Their body is gently saying, it's time to slow down. And here's something many people don't realize. This deep fatigue often isn't scary for the person going through it. In fact, many report feeling calm, at peace, even a little detached from the daily worries that once occupied their minds. It's us, the caregivers, the loved ones, who feel the urgency and sadness. But for the one who's slowing down, it can be a very serene state. I once heard a hospice nurse say, death is not always a thunderstorm. Sometimes it's just the sun setting quietly at the end of a long day. That image has stayed with me for years, because that's exactly what this kind of tiredness looks like. Gentle, slow, natural. Now that we explore the quiet retreat from social life, the fading appetite, and the soft, persistent fatigue, you might be noticing a theme. These are not dramatic signs. They're not alarming or painful. They're quiet, subtle, sometimes even easy to miss. But they speak volumes if we know how to listen. And listening is what this is really all about. Tuning in, not just to what someone says, but to what they show us in their silences, in their slowing down, in the way they begin to prepare, even if they don't have the words to say it. Because the end of life, when approached with awareness and love, doesn't have to be full of fear or confusion. It can be soft, gentle, honest, and above all, deeply human. There's something deeply human about the need to understand what's happening to us or someone we love, especially as we age. When we begin to see these changes, like the ones we just talked about, our hearts naturally want to reach out. We want to do something, say something, fix something. But sometimes the best thing we can do is simply be present, to notice, to honor what's changing. Because every sign, every shift is a whisper from the body, letting us know it's getting ready for something we all must face one day. Now, let's talk about a sign that many people don't recognize for what it truly is: confusion or sudden mental decline. This one can be especially hard because it feels more frightening. One day your loved one seems perfectly clear, telling old stories, remembering names, smiling at jokes. And then, over just a few weeks, or sometimes even a few days, you start to notice small things that feel off. They forget appointments. They get confused about time or place. They might call someone by the wrong name or say something that just doesn't make sense. And sometimes it's more emotional than mental. They might become agitated, restless, or unusually quiet. This can look a lot like dementia or Alzheimer's, and in some cases, it may be. But here's what's important to understand. In the final year of life, even those who've never had any cognitive issues can begin to show signs of mental fog. It's not always disease. It's the body and brain slowly letting go of their usual pace. Think of it like the dimming of lights at the end of a play. The stage doesn't go black all at once. It softens, slows. It can feel disorienting, but it's part of a natural process that many hospice nurses and caregivers know well. There's a story I'll never forget. A woman named Linda shared it during a community support group. Her father, a retired schoolteacher, had been sharp as a tack his whole life. Then one day, he started asking the same question over and over. A few days later, he began telling stories that blended fact with fantasy. At first, she was worried he was having a stroke or a medical emergency, but the doctor said everything looked normal for his age. Over the next few months, her dad seemed to drift in and out of clarity. Sometimes he was right there with her, laughing about old memories. Other times, he seemed to be somewhere else entirely. Linda said she realized something beautiful. He wasn't losing himself. He was just gradually letting go of this world, floating between now and whatever comes next. And she began to meet him where he was, without correcting him or pulling him back. Just being with him, heart to heart. That kind of presence, that kind of love, it matters more than we realize. Now, let's explore one more sign that's deeply physical but also incredibly emotional: a change in breathing patterns. This is something many people don't notice until it becomes very obvious, but often starts quietly many months before someone passes. Breathing becomes more shallow or irregular. Some people start to have small pauses in their breathing, or they sigh more often. Others breathe rapidly, even while resting, as if the body is trying to catch up. These changes aren't usually painful. They don't always come with panic or struggle, but they are part of the body's long preparation. The lungs, like the rest of the body, begin to do less. They become more relaxed, slower, not because the person is sick, but because their system is shifting into a different rhythm, one that requires less oxygen, less effort. Sometimes, people begin to sleep more deeply. They might snore when they didn't before or breathe more through their mouths. And family members might feel alarmed, wondering if something is wrong. But very often, these are simply the body's quiet way of saying, I'm starting to rest. I once heard a caregiver describe it so gently. She said, it's like the body is sighing its way out one soft breath at a time. That stuck with me, because there's a tenderness to this process that we often overlook. We want to keep everything the same, strong, clear, sharp. But nature has its own wisdom, and when we recognize it, we can offer support in a much more loving, peaceful way. Here's what's most important during this phase. Comfort. If someone is breathing differently, maybe they need to be propped up a little more. Maybe their room could be cooler, or a fan could help. Soft music can ease their rhythm, and a calm voice beside them can bring deep peace. You don't need fancy tools or complicated treatments. Just kindness, just presence. And that leads us to something that can feel heartbreaking, but it's also one of the most sacred signs of all, a growing sense of readiness. It's not something that shows up in lab tests or x-rays. It doesn't come with warning bells. But if you've ever been close to someone in their final year, you've probably seen it. A quiet acceptance. A letting go. It doesn't mean they've given up. It means they've made peace. They might start saying things like, I've lived a good life, or I think I'm ready. Some people talk about seeing loved ones who pass, parents, siblings, even pets. Others begin to give away special items, telling you who should have what and why. They tie up loose ends in small, meaningful ways. These moments can feel emotional. They can also feel incredibly beautiful, because they remind us that death is not a failure. It's a part of life. And when we embrace it with honesty, love, and presence, it becomes something far less frightening. I remember sitting with an elderly woman named Ruth. She'd been battling illness for some time, but she was stable. One afternoon, she looked out the window, smiled, and said, I think I've done what I needed to do here. Her daughter tried to reassure her, told her she still had time. But Ruth just squeezed her hand and said, I'm okay with whatever comes. She passed away 3 weeks later, peacefully, without pain, surrounded by love. And that's what I hope this conversation brings you. Peace. Not fear, not worry, but the peace that comes from understanding the quiet language of the body and the soul. Because when we see these signs, not as scary warnings, but as tender transitions, we can show up with more grace. We can stop focusing only on what's slipping away and instead pour our energy into what still matters most: connection, comfort, and love. When we begin to notice that someone we love is showing signs of letting go, maybe it's their energy fading, their appetite changing, or their breath softening, it can feel like time is slipping through our fingers. But here's something worth remembering. This is not a season of loss alone. It's also a season of meaning, of reflection, of small, quiet moments that, once gone, become some of the most powerful memories we carry. Now, there's one more sign we haven't yet talked about, and it might be the most subtle of them all. In fact, it often doesn't look like anything serious at first. But once you understand it, it becomes clear. I'm talking about withdrawal from life. A soft, gradual pulling away from people, routines, and even interests that once brought joy. This kind of withdrawal can show up in small ways. Maybe your loved one doesn't want to go out for coffee anymore, even if they always looked forward to it. Maybe they stop watching their favorite TV show, or they forget to check the mail, or they just don't feel like answering the phone. Conversations become shorter. Visits become quieter. And you may feel like you're doing something wrong. But you're not. This is simply part of how the body and the spirit begin to prepare. It's not about sadness or depression, although it can look similar. This kind of withdrawal is more about simplicity. Think about it like this. Just like a tree in late autumn begins to drop its leaves and pull its energy inward, our elders, too, begin to conserve their energy. The outer world slowly becomes less important, and their attention turns inward. They rest more, think more, dream more. You might notice they seem to be lost in thought, or sitting quietly for long periods. And yes, at times, it might feel like they're slipping away. But many caregivers and end-of-life professionals say this stage can be deeply peaceful if we allow it to be. It gives the person space to reflect on their life, to settle unresolved thoughts, and to prepare spiritually for whatever they believe comes next. If you're seeing this in someone you love, don't panic. Don't try to pull them back with busy plans or constant conversation. Just meet them where they are. Sit beside them. Offer your presence, not your pressure. Sometimes a warm hand on theirs, or your voice reading a favorite poem, is more comforting than any words. One daughter shared something that stayed with me. Her mother, once vibrant and active in her community, had become quieter in the last year of her life. She stopped attending events, stopped knitting, even stopped reading. At first, the daughter worried her mom was depressed. But then, during one of their quiet afternoons, her mother smiled and said, "I'm not sad. I just feel full, like I've already had my feast, and now I'm just resting at the table." Isn't that beautiful? This quiet withdrawal is not a failure to thrive. It's a graceful winding down of a life that's been well lived. And while it can feel lonely for those of us who remain, it's also a gentle invitation to slow down with them, to savor the now, to speak less and love more. Now, as we talk through these signs, changes in appetite, mental fog, breathing shifts, withdrawal, you may be wondering what to do with this information. You might be feeling a little heavy right now, and that's okay. These are not light topics. They're real, deep, and meaningful. But here's the part we sometimes forget. There is immense power in knowing, because knowing gives us the chance to love better. It gives us time to forgive, to ask questions, to share stories, to say thank you, to say I love you. And if you're the one facing these changes, not in someone else, but in yourself, I want to speak to you directly for a moment. You are not disappearing. You are evolving. You are still here, and every breath you take still matters. You still have something to offer, even if it's not what it used to be. A smile, a memory, a kind word. Your presence in this world is not measured by what you can do. It's measured by the love you give and receive. Maybe you've noticed that you sleep more than you used to, or that your favorite foods don't taste quite the same. Maybe your steps are slower. Maybe you forget things sometimes. That doesn't make you broken. It just means you're walking a different part of the journey now, one that deserves just as much care and respect as any other season of life. Don't let fear steal your peace. Don't let silence steal your voice. Talk to your family. Tell them how you feel. Let them into your thoughts, even if you don't have all the answers. There's no shame in aging, no shame in slowing down. This stage of life is not less than, it's simply different. And if you're someone who's watching a loved one go through these signs, I want to remind you, you are doing an incredible job. You might not have all the right words. You might feel helpless sometimes, but your love is showing in the meals you make, the calls you answer, the tears you wipe away, the quiet hours you spend just being near them. That love is the most powerful medicine there is. In the end, none of us can predict exactly when or how our final year will unfold. But what we can do, what we must do, is walk through it together, with grace, with compassion, with eyes open to what matters most. This conversation today isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to empower you. Because the more we understand about what our bodies do as they prepare for life's final chapter, the more we can respond with love rather than fear. We can stop running from the inevitable and start facing it with open hearts, not just so we can be prepared, but so we can be present for those we love and for ourselves. Now that we've taken time to understand the physical and emotional shifts that often appear in the last year of life, there's one more powerful sign we need to talk about, and it's one that many people miss. Not because it's invisible, but because it's deeply spiritual. It's a sense of knowing. Some elders describe it as a feeling in their bones, a soft, internal voice that says, "I'm almost done here." It's not frightening. It's not dramatic. It's quiet, almost sacred. And when they speak about it, they often do so with surprising calmness, like they've made peace with something the rest of us are still learning to accept. This sense of knowing can come in many forms. For some, it's expressed through dreams, vivid, meaningful dreams that feel more like messages than just images. Others may begin to speak in past tense more often, reflecting deeply on their lives and the people they've known. Some begin giving things away: old photographs, treasured books, little belongings they've held onto for years. It's not always about downsizing. Sometimes it's about closure, about sharing what's most meaningful before it's too late. One elderly man, who had been sharp and full of humor well into his late 80s, suddenly began telling his daughter stories he had never shared before. Family history, moment from his childhood, little lessons he'd tucked away. He told her, "I just want you to know everything before I go." When she asked if he was feeling sick, he smiled and said, "No, not sick, just done, like my soul is packing its bags." You see, when people are approaching the final stretch of life, many of them no longer fear it. That fear, for many, fades, and what replaces it is often clarity and even grace. That's a beautiful reminder for all of us, because whether we're preparing ourselves or supporting someone we love, what matters most isn't how much time is left, it's how we spend it. If you're sitting beside someone who seems to be pulling away in this spiritual sense, just know this is their way of crossing a bridge from here to there, from doing to being, from noise to stillness. They don't need fixing. They need your presence, your patience, and above all, your love. You don't need to have perfect words. You don't need to fill the room with cheer or make everything feel normal again. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just be there. Listen, hold their hand, let them talk, or let them sit in silence if they need that too. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about death, it's about life, about the final chapter in a story that deserves to be honored, not rushed. It's about making sure that person knows their life mattered, that they were seen, heard, valued. And if you're the one feeling that sense of something shifting, I want you to know you are not alone, and you are not broken. There's nothing wrong with slowing down, with resting more, with thinking about the people you've loved, the lessons you've learned, and the footprints you've left behind. You've already done so much, given so much, taught so much. If your body feels like it's tired, if your spirit feels like it's releasing, don't fight it with fear. Meet it with peace. Meet it with kindness toward yourself. This part of your journey is just as important as every other part, and you deserve to move through it with dignity and with love surrounding you. Remember this: the signs we talk about today, changing appetite, declining memory, shallow breath, withdrawal, and this deep inner knowing, are not meant to scare you. They're simply signals, whispers from the body and soul saying, let's slow down. Let's savor the time we have. Let's do this together. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're not alone. Whether you're facing this in yourself or walking through it with someone you care about, you're already doing one of the most compassionate things a person can do, paying attention. And attention in these moments is love. So take this time to speak your heart, to say what you need to say, to listen more closely, even when there are no words, to be gentle with others and with yourself. There is no rule book for how this should go, no perfect script for these moments, but there is love, and it can fill a room. It can carry a person. It can bring light even in the softest endings. As we wrap up this conversation, I want to leave you with one simple truth. Growing old is not a loss. It's a passage, and every wrinkle, every gray hair, every memory you carry is proof of the life you've lived and the lives you've touched. You are more than your body. You are more than your years. You are a story, still being written in the hearts of those around you. So if you've been feeling a little afraid or uncertain or even overwhelmed by some signs we talked about, breathe. You are not alone. You are seen. You are loved. And you are not going through this without support. If this video spoke to your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe it will ease someone's fears. Maybe it will start a conversation that's been too hard to have. And if you feel comfortable, share your thoughts or stories in the comments below. This is a space for compassion, not judgment, for encouragement, not fear. And if you want more videos that speak to the real, beautiful challenges of life after 60, be sure to subscribe to our channel. We're here to support you every step of the way. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Thank you for your strength, your heart, your presence. Here's to living with awareness, with love, and with peace in every stage of life. Take care of yourself, and take care of one another.